Good morning. And a good morning it is. Got Lady Hippy here. See that I'm steadily looking through two different cameras. Try to put them where they can be seen just with one gesture. You got again, Lady Hippy, this morning. And it's going to be one of those mornings I can tell you. Boy, the stories I've got. I have tried to start my live stream 3 times this morning. Now, I have no children in here. My child is grown. He's 44, going on 45 with his own 25-year-old. So, yes, I'm a grandma for way back. So, you think, well, what's going on? My husband knows I always let him know when I'm dropping a live podcast so that because he doesn't really want to be on camera, bless him. He just indulges me, and that's great. At the same time, I'm trying to, again, like I say, use two cameras and try not to do the bouncing thing. It doesn't work as well as you would think. You can't seem to get the other one to line up the same way. I don't know how Lucille Ball did it. She was the first to suggest and use multiple cameras, and that dates me as well with that name. Bless her. God rest her. So I couldn't figure it out this morning. I got one of those. It feels like the flu. It's this blooming virus. I don't know what is. It just you get better, you get worse. It's like your body goes, I fooled you. Yeah, and you're not going to get better. You just feel a little bit better today. And unfortunately, when I'm doing something like that, I tend to try to clean the house, do the laundry, do all that to catch up because even one day off for me, it's a ton of stuff. And I use a plate, like I said, for each cat, even those outside. And so right there alone, you've got like 20 plates because they're fed twice a day. So those have to be cleaned. There's no telling what your husband's going to do. I love the fact, I don't know about you ladies, but I love the fact that when they retire and you're retired, like I stated before, Robert has his own man cave basically as an apartment upstairs because the throat cancer, thank God he beat the throat cancer, but it left him the radiation they did way too hard. I mean, they burned him really bad. And in any event, he's still with us. He sounds a little different, and when he's sleepy, he can take the roof down. And I tried for a while because it just didn't work. I ended up on the couch or whatever. And finally, my husband said, "Well, I'm going to take the man cave and make it a bedroom as well," and that's what he's done so that we can both sleep. And I don't know why we didn't do this years ago. Because poor thing, he'd have to go through 3 of my closets to find a pair of pants. So now now he doesn't have to do that. And it's nice having him at home. He's a truck driver, ace mechanic. They call him MacGyver. He still does work with a friend of his that gave him a job right after he beat cancer. And he was on social disability, but you could make so much a year along with that. So he was trying to get back on his feet. It's hard, especially before I retired, because I was his only caregiver. And so we had to wait 4 months or so, maybe not, but it was a rough time before his kicked in. And then once it did, it would pay the bills. And you could buy groceries very little. They had them on Boost, something like that. And that stuff is gold. I mean, $50 for 20 or so crap. And he had to take that for a couple of years, and he built up his strength and so on. I can't remember if he was doing when he was doing, but the guy sitting beside him talked to him and found that he was an age-old truck driver. I mean, way back school. Yeah, he's not a young pup anymore. And the guy gave him a chance to drive, and no one else would because he still had a feeding tube, and the insurance wouldn't allow that. And they just did tell insurance. I love the people; they're great. If they need something, they'll call MacGyver. And I always called him Magic Man. MacGyver really fits him. I mean, he can do anything: wiring, plumbing, sheetrock, you name it. The guy's done it. Besides, he's also, the ace mechanic, and they loved it when he actually drove for them because if the truck broke down, Robert would fix it. Most people can't do that or wouldn't do that, but it saved that company thousands and thousands of dollars for him to do that. So he's a really great guy. He helps anybody. If he sees somebody on the middle of the road trying to get something done, he'll I'll stop and help. I was driving home one day last year, I believe it was, and my hood just came up and slammed the windshield out and folded up onto the roof of the car in traffic 75, 80 mile an hour traffic. And I couldn't go anywhere. There was no shoulder. There was, you said stop in the lane. And I'm trying to look underneath the little part of the hood, and the glass is all shattered and rolling down the window and all that so I could see. And I was so freaked out. And I managed to get home like this. And my husband was working, he was on the road then. He had actually retired pretty much through the throat cancer, which he beat again, thank God. But he went back to being in a truck because of the supply problems that everybody had. They couldn't get even baby formula. They said it, and I know my husband very well. When they said baby formula, he kind of wanted to go to work, and that's how I started going back, was to make sure that everything moved. And he worked completely through the epidemic, well, pandemic, really. And I was proud of him, but because he's not a young chicken, he'll be 69 in a little while, and I'll be going at 52. And if you believe that I got a bridge over here, I need some place to put. So I'm glad to see he's at home. And the same people that he worked for, they, like I said, and they still adore him. Every once in a while, because nobody else apparently at this place can use a backhoe. So they'll call Robert, and he'll dash over so he can do whatever. Even the EPA came out and it was a problem. It wasn't that his company did that, but they had to clean it up and so forth. And that would again have cost thousands. And Robert got out there on that equipment and he took care of it. So they didn't have to pay, especially a government agency, their left kidney to get that straightened out. Not too many husbands, I think, would be as kind as he is to redo his schedule and make sure that I have the time to do this. Like I said, both of us keep going from I've been sick for 2 days to waking up feeling a lot better. But by the time the nightfall rolls around, you're going back down again, and you're like, "What?" I've tried everything but the doctor. My doctor's at the VA. I always do the VA. Robert has a personal doctor through Medicaid, or is it Medicare? I can't remember, but he has that. And I didn't want to switch over, although I'm thinking about it now. But it took me forever to get this right at the VA. And it's usually pretty good. They're not allowed to make you wait. Um, say, I think the wait time is a half an hour. And if you've not been seen in that half hour, you have the right to ask for a different appointment or cancel this one. They don't make you sit out there for hours and hours. I had recently to go to a doctor because some of the disability was caused by my being in Bravo Company, in I will just say the 70s, and we were the first women to train as men. And I broke my knee on my fire maneuvers and had many stress fractures, had both ankles fractured. Um, it beat me to death. I didn't care. I wasn't going to go home, and I was not going to fail. And I was still proud to say I did not fail. Not one of my girls failed. I had the most rank when I went in because I had gone through college, graduated high school twice years, so I graduated college. So I had been delayed entry, plus I had been ROTC the whole 4 years of my high school years, a long time ago. But they did not tell us. They put us in hotels and we didn't know what was going on. And it was them trying to get us into different places to train because they had closed down wax. They did not, again, tell the women they weren't going to wax, that they would be soldiers. So it was a surprise. We had airborne, Vietnam, airborne uh, Rangers as our drill sergeants. So you can imagine how well that went. They, for one, did not want women in the military other than with the WAC course. They, nurse or secretary. Basically, that's what the WAC corps was. And they didn't want that. So they really, really pushed the women because they thought they would quit. And I told all my girls, if you quit, I shoot you. You'd be killed by friendly fire. We got attacked our first week there. And if you watch the movie Private Benjamin, you'll see that some some similar things happened. It's just close. Anyway, we were attacked on a forced march. My girls, now Bravo Company was the female company, Alpha, Charlie, Delta, the rest were all men. And we were in 2nd Battalion, so we were Bravo 2, Company Bravo, 2nd Battalion. So these girls, when we attacked, they throw those weapons down and start trying to climb trees, hide under door. I don't know what they were doing. But I told them they had about 10 seconds to get back up and get their weapons, or there was again going to be a disaster with friendly fire. And I was like 5'2", didn't even weigh 100 pounds. And those girls jumped down and got their weapons. You don't never leave your weapon ever. You sleep with your weapon. Your weapon is your life and somebody else's life because you have to buddy up as well. And I learned that like the first day. My email starts with Wicked because that was my army nickname. And it's stuck even through civilian life. It's stuck, and there's a story behind that, but I don't have time. So my son set up the email for me, and so that became part of that. So I ended up trying to explain why it says that because I'm really a nice person. You really wouldn't know that from the email start. I tell you, you just wouldn't catch it. So yeah, we kicked that door down. It was one girl, even though I broke my knee on the last day of the live fire maneuvers, we were due to graduate in like 3 days. And these guys held up me up under my arms, and if I wouldn't get on the crippled truck, I refused. I was like, no, 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 I'll be a little late. Out there with my crutches. But the men and the women, everybody just passed me forward. When they got tired, they would pass me to another two. And that's how I got to the bleachers where they, acknowledge you have graduated from your boot camp. And because I was so scared that when I had broke my leg, that I had failed. So, and I don't like failure, especially my own. And I would never have gone back home because everybody knew I went in the army. And I couldn't face people saying, "Well, it was really regular army, and I didn't pass." I just couldn't do that. And again, I had the most rank, even though I was the smallest and so forth. So I was real tickled that we managed to not lose anybody, including myself. That my XO and CO actually had each arm and my crutches, and they put me up on the first stage of the. Well, we had all of the seats, arranged that way. So that was kind of them. And when it was over, and I didn't have any family that came. My family did not come to any of my graduations. It was just me. So that was, a little disappointing. But again, parents were adopted parents. They were very old. They were retired, and they were in a small town, and they wouldn't have been able to fly. I don't think either of them had ever been on an airplane in their lives. I mean, these guys lived through the depressions in World War One and Two, so they were not young when they adopted us. So, as a matter of fact, not too many years after that, they passed away, but they didn't. They weren't able to come. Not my brother either. So it was a disappointment not to see my brother. I must say, I was trying to keep my roses in the shot because I love my roses every day or every other day. Robert makes sure I have those. So again, we girls, we kicked down that door. We didn't lose one of us. I do remember thinking, and we were laughing. We probably shouldn't do, but you had to line up to get the shots. And I was used to that. They did that at school, in high school and grade school. They just took you out the parking lot, and gave you shots. They didn't ask your parents nothing. Yeah, you just got taken out. That was it. But I was looking because Alpha Company would have gone first, then Bravo, Charlie, Delta, etc. So we're watching the guys, and they're all lined up. And this is a long line. This isn't four guys. It's a company, and so they're going along, and like every third dude was just face planting. It was just wham. I mean, not even tried to keep themselves from falling. It was just bam. Hopefully, none of them broke noses because I don't know. We trained beside him. It's not like you could chit chat. It was way too busy to be chit chat. I'll tell you what. Not to mention they had these steel rods you clean your rifle with. And my drill used to come up behind me and hit me. We had, the steel helmets, so he would hit me on the helmet and yell at me, and which wasn't smart of him because he had picked me on the very first day to be his secretary. and they do that. They'll pick certain people for certain things. So they called me, of course, the drill's pet. And again, they found out that didn't work too well, and they shut their mouths. I'm from Chicago. I'm just mean, and I don't fight fair. I'm a little bitty thing. Lucky for me, I had cousins in Vietnam, and when they knew I was going in, they taught me the calisthenics and so forth that I'd be using. Although only one or two were ones I had not ever done. I did archery, I did tennis, I loved the dodgeball. Those were fun with the whole red face. Yeah, I love dodgeball. Track and field. I was a good gymnast. I danced every weekend. So I was completely athletic in many ways, even though I was so small. And I had started karate when I was, I think, around 9 years old. And, so I wasn't even though I looked little bitty, I wasn't one that was going to fail for one. But I also had enough training and looking out for that I made it because of that. And my girls had to work a lot harder than I did because, again, that was something that I had already done. So it was help them because everybody had to make it, which was the other great thing. That was your family. And we did. We made it. And now they have, for God's sakes, I'm so old. We have women fighter pilots. I love that. I absolutely love that. Women firefighters. These things did not exist when I was a teenager. You didn't have fighter pilots that were women. That came around maybe the 90s, maybe late 80s, I think. But the ceiling had been broken, and they found that women made very good soldiers. Very good soldiers, just like the men. It's all in the training. You can't just be a girl. As a matter of fact, you got to hang up being a girl. You don't have the luxury of getting up, put on your makeup, or any of those things. And I had the GI haircut as well. Basically, all of us girls did. We were not treated different from the men. They did leave ours a little longer. We weren't jarheads, but nothing like this. In fact, even after you went out of basic, your hair had to be off your collar. So I wore mine above when I started growing it back out. But yeah, so you grabbed a shower, you were out, like 2 minutes because you had to fall out quick. And you didn't have to get a shower even on some days. If they opened up that door and turned on the light, your boots better be out on the floor. So it reminded me of my parents. Whenever we got to go outside, they would make sure that we had to be home before the street lights came on. And you would test them. I surely pushed the parents because one of them would be on the porch, usually mom, just waiting, and so I'd be running full out and make it to the porch gently before that light came on. And many times I had one foot on the step and that light popped out, but I always made it. And you can't blame them. Like I said, they were a little bit younger, older than we were, and I'm surprised they were able to raise us because of their age. I learned a lot of wisdom from them, and I miss them still. I really do. I only had parents for 7 years because, I left. I went into the military. And it turned out my sister, who I never understood why she was angry at me, she was angry because, as she put it, I left. And she never said anything. She was just mean. I don't know how to describe mean, but it's your sister, and you're thinking, why is she being so ugly? She was terrible, and I did not find out till she was dying. And I was leaving the hospital in Wisconsin to fly back home. I'd been there several weeks. When I got there, she had been in a coma for 3 months. And after I got there, she came out of the coma within 24 hours and was off all the breathing tubes. She was off everything. She was fine suddenly. And she said something to me. I can't remember what it was. And even the nurses that were in the room, there were three nurses taking things out. And they said, You shouldn't say that. She's not slept. She's not eaten. She has been sitting right here. She has not left your side. And she doesn't deserve that. So she shut up. But it gave me a warning that she hadn't changed. And I never understood that. I thought we were close sisters up until I left for the military. I guess we were in some ways. But so I called and made reservations because I knew it had been a week really when they did all this. made sure all the things were off. So I made arrangements to leave the next week. And as I was going out the door, even, she was hurling, things at me. And the nurses were telling her, "That's wrong. She's not left your room for 2 weeks. You were in a coma when she got here." And there were times when she was fine during that time. We'd laugh at this or that, like Laverne and Shirley or whatever. Um, but I was so devastated when I left because I knew I'd never see her alive again. And she did too. She knew that. She was still very young. But she didn't. I've had pneumonia. It's hard to, you really don't completely ever recover, depending on the type of pneumonia. And if she was in a coma with that type of pneumonia, and she was because I checked her charts, you really can't bounce back from it unless you try really hard. Um, and depending what age you are, and I was in my 30s, and I was lucky. I was very lucky. She wasn't uh, ready, I guess, to start her life where she could save her life. Instead, she went back to drinking. Her own children, she had 5 children. One was taken from her who had had kidney replaced twice because she ran the cops off the road to see where the nearest bottle shop was, and she was lost. And she had all the kids in there, and she was very drunk. So that didn't turn out well. Robert and I even went up to Chicago, was going to take the baby, but it turned out he had another sister-in-law. She did. Her husband had passed away at that time, sometime before. So she had the 5 children by herself, and she wanted the baby. And we didn't want him to move away from things that he knew. He was already 7, I think, at that time. So she took him. The other kids, the other 4 kids, stayed there. She didn't lose them, but she apparently, I didn't know any of that. She was very angry. She was very mean to everybody, including her children. I did not know that until when I got to Wisconsin. I didn't even know their numbers. She would change their numbers. So suddenly one of them, along with their husband, came to see her, and I was like, "Where have you guys been? I've been there like a week or something." And they stayed like 5 seconds in the room, and then they were out. I had left the room so she could see her kid, and they came out to me and they said, "No, you haven't seen us because she doesn't deserve to see us. She has done nothing for us ever in our lives. She's just a very mean person who hates everything and everyone and never ever did anything for us." And I was like, I was just shocked. And I still am to this day because she loved kids, and I knew she loved her children, so I couldn't figure that out at all. Um, and I purposely tried to get them to come, and they did finally come to see me. I asked them to come to see me because I had not seen them in years. So they all came to see me, and they all spent about a minute and a half seeing her. And again, they told me and their husbands that they didn't want to see her. They didn't want to see her at home. They didn't want to see her anywhere. That she was a bad person, basically. And I just didn't listen. It wasn't the sister I remembered growing up, but that sister had disappeared when I left on delayed entry, and I did not realize it because I wasn't there. So I didn't see the changes. I was there to see everybody, the kids, the parents, or the brother, whoever. So it just kind of went past me, and I was devastated to hear that. I really was. But there's only so much you can do. So, and they knew I was leaving. They came again. All of them came that time to see me because they knew I was like, I was leaving the next day. So they came to see me. So that was interesting. And she passed away not long after that from cirrhosis. And then my brother followed her with the same problem. But he made sure he made me angry at him. And he was my guy. That was my brother. He was always there. And he knew he was dying, and my husband knew, and he had spoken to my husband and said, "Don't let her come back up here because if she finds out I'm dying, she won't leave." And he was right. He was very right. At one point, I called him just to talk to him and stuff, and he made me so angry and so hurt on the phone that I said, bye. And he was like, "Good luck with that." And I'm like, I'm looking at this phone like, who is this person? And I hang up. And within 3 months, he had passed away. And they say it's a very terrible thing that the pain cannot even be controlled with morphine. So that's pretty bad. That's one of the highest things you could give them. Or you can put him in an induced coma, but apparently that was not his choice. And when he passed is when I found out. So I have one of those stories that can go all over the place because the Blood family also reached out to us from actual cover of the Parade magazine when we were adopted. So they made one phone call, for God's sake. They got my brother. Just called the operator and asked for the number at, the address of the house. And my brother answered, for he had inherited the house. And it was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'll give them your number. And of course, then the sister's crying because you don't want to go. I was manager of a Holiday Inn, which is just under general. And I loved it. I had, there was a bar, a restaurant, all of that. So it was a lot of work. And I had made it to manager, which was unusual for me, this type of work. So I was happy with that. But that was a whole big change. And that's how I ended up in Georgia. And actually met the guy I call my husband. I'm not sure he agrees with that. I hope he does. I don't know. Um, so he doesn't. He's not like me. He doesn't do the ghost thing. So a lot of my subscriptions are for the ghost hunters, paranormal twin or his twin paranormal. My favorite is Casper's site. He downloads the videos, and when you're watching them, he reacts to them, and he's pretty funny. So I have him and Slapped Him. So there's plenty of channels out there if you want to see the shadow guys. That people are catching everything nowadays. I see people, they're on their phones and they got a room full of people and they're cooking and they're still on their phone. I still call the phones a computer. It took Robert forever to make me carry a phone or to get a computer at home. Mm. I came on this morning and said, let's see what we're going to do here. Had to reboot this thing twice this morning. So things are on the way. Here I see in the bar mirror that YouTube is stuck, or I don't know what. It's just doing things it's not supposed to. Yeah, it just does that stuff just so I have to turn around again. I apologize for moving about, but it's the easiest thing to do rather than end my live stream. I thought, well, let's see what else we wanted to go over today. Anybody want to say anything? I got live chat up. It's a little difficult if I don't keep both the systems up when I have a live chat because I try to answer everybody. So there is something I did forget. This is, of course, for entertainment purposes only. There's a light in here that dims like that. I'm going to end that light eventually. We're not sure why it does it, but it dims like it's on a dimmer. It's the strangest thing. So I look a little dark in some of them, and I look too bright, so it's hard to control that backlighting. So I'm hoping everybody can see me. Um, I had somebody tell me, yeah, well, I thought it was cute. Where are your wrinkles? It was one of the family members. Where are your wrinkles? I was like everybody else on my face. And they're like, you don't have any wrinkles. I go, no, I got a lot of laugh lines, but I didn't really have a regime to get rid of that lady. So I've always looked a little bit younger than I actually was, which was not always a good thing. They still card me, for God's sake. I love that part. Here, I'll throw out. Here's the VL. Here, everything. You sure you got that? I know they have to, but it must feel a little funny what they do. Mm. We aren't the only ones that have been staying sick up and out. Like I said, it kind of plateaus you. You'd feel awful, and then you kind of feel good, but like if it got the flu. Like I feel like I have the flu today, and I can't breathe again. I took something to breathe before I came out, so I wasn't up here sniffling. And basically, I don't know if it just cut the nose off or what, but I can't breathe through there. And then your face hurts and your eyes hurt. It's really, I don't know what it is, but it's repeating, and that bothers me. We'll feel better. One of us will do something, run at the store or something. And I have to mask up because I don't have a fever. And if you have a fever, you're definitely contagious. But I don't have a fever, or I wouldn't go out. And I still will stay away from everybody else. So just in case. And I have that list. So I run in and out of there in like 10 minutes, which I always say is funny because they want you to rate your service there. And I give it a 5 because I'm damn good. I'm, I'm the unpaid, untrained cashier. So yeah, I give it a 5 star. I am just that good. I love that. I mean, you're looking for bananas, you scan it, you can't find it, you have to go through a process, They don't tell you how to do that. And I used to be a cashier. That was one of my jobs, that too. And yeah, we didn't have barcodes. You had to actually type in what it was. And you actually had to count change back. It didn't say so much change had to go back. And here we are 20 years later doing our own groceries just like I did when I was on my job. Really. And it was supposed to stop after the pandemic. They don't. They like it this way, I guess. I don't. Basically, you'll have 2 or 3 carts running around Walmart with the workers, and they're filling it up because these are call-in orders. So if they're filling up the little baskets with whoever orders what. Then you have 4 or 5 companies that are in there unloading stuff because the shelves are bare. And I can't figure that out. And then finally, you get what you're looking for, hopefully, and you get to you're going to check out yourself because they don't have a register open. This is not like you have. It's not rocket science. They have one job and they're not doing that. So there's no other way you can get out other than check yourself out. And it cracks me up because they move my belt as I'm checking stuff out. They're moving the belt for me. I'm like, wow, that's one hell of a job. I couldn't do it myself. There's no way I could do that. I fall asleep on my feet. I'd be so bored. I'm like, what did they pay you people to do this? I'm like, they got to pay you really well. I mean, they don't do anything. So I'm laughing because they're moving the belt for me while I'm ringing up my own items. And then the latest I heard was that they were going to add a surcharge for anyone who checked themselves out. And I'm like, okay, it's not enough you doubled everything in these stores everywhere. The dollar store is no longer a dollar; it's 5.50. It's just you can't. If you find something in there for a dollar, I'll shake your hand because I know I looked all over the place. I haven't looked at Family Dollar, but Dollar General, nah. And I used to love those because that's where I bought my products to clean and stuff because it was half price to what it was at Walmart, so you could save some money. Apparently, they don't want us to save money anymore, and they pretty much don't want me to shop there anymore because when I shop there and their stuff is just as high as the other, why go to the 3 places? Just okay. I'm just going to stay here, pick up everything. It's costing the same anyway. I don't know if anybody saw this either. They were talking about pyramids, and I love pyramids. And I think most of us know, or shouldn't assume, but that there are pyramids on every continent. There are pyramid cities under the water that they found. They've found them in the jungle. They found them underwater. They found, I mean, they're everywhere. These pyramids are everywhere. And they were talking about this one has come up and that one has come up, and people had questions about those. And to me, it's amazing the mathematical equations that they've used by just doing things to the pyramid, measuring and so forth and so on. So it was obviously a civilization here that was much more. What's the word? It's not smarter. They had technology. That's the way I put it. Even though our technology today, we can't do that. We cannot replicate a pyramid. It's not. We just can't do it. So, that is surprising to me. For one, we couldn't lift the blocks. And then they came out lately with they had molds. So they just poured the concrete in and then set it up. I'm thinking, right, okay. This thing still got like 300,000 blocks on it. And it's been used as a quarry for thousands of years, and yet it's still standing. A lot of people say, oh, I love this, the mainstream archaeology anyway. tells you that this was a pyramid built by a particular pharaoh, and it's his burial place, this Pharaoh Khufu. There's nothing there. There's no hieroglyphics in or out. Nothing to tell you anything. They've also found two other chambers using echo imaging. But so what I wondered was, why did everybody buy that? Like Tutankhamun's death mask, I don't believe for a second that was made for him. I think that their priests rated the good stuff off of the other ones and set it aside to put on another one because it's, well, for one, it's gorgeous, it's most beautiful, but they have just, I don't know, destroyed all those sites. But all of the other pharaohs, like Tutankhamun, wanted to not have anybody find their tomb. And they had curses on their tombs. If you find it, if you open the door, if you mess with me, whatever, you're going to die, kind of thing. Those kind. They did it anyway. They did it anyway. Um, and people just stole and stole and stole and stole and stole. I think one of the reasons why the pyramid's still there, like I said, what's left of it is because of all the ginormous blocks that weigh several tons, which again, we can't do today, mold or no mold. And people have done some math and said, oh, they could do it if they could lay one stone every 2 minutes, it'd take 20 years. Well, Mr. Casey said it took 10 years in one of his readings. And I went, this time I'm going to have to ask God for an ID because I can't see that happening at all. It was many years ago that I went to see Teotihuacan in Mexico City. And Teotihuacan is beautiful and it's huge. And its layout, if you look at it from the top, is a motherboard. It looked to me just like a motherboard. I also worked IT back and forth. So it looks like, I mean, if you look at the Giza Plateau as well from the top, there's a whole place in Mars that we filmed and people actually got that echoes the same thing. It's mirrored on Mars. And as far as I can tell, and not to mention the astronomical alignments that they got, all of the cardinal points, it's the center mass of the earth, it's all these things. So this, I don't think, was some pharaoh, and maybe there was at some point, I don't know, who's, I'm going to put all my stuff in here and I'm going to put up a curse, don't ever disturb me, but I'm going to put it in this, and this thing used to have white marble over the top, it's just gleamed with a golden top. That's just a Great Pyramid. Okay, so he goes, with this big thing, a huge arrow that says, "Hi, I'm buried here. Come get my stuff." No, the pharaohs that they did find, and they every once in a while will find some, were buried in places that it was hidden. They didn't want people to mess them up. Unfortunately, the priesthood pretty much knew where y'all was. So they had the good stuff first. One of the reasons Tutankhamun's tomb has been so fascinating is because nobody got to it first. And even that was, well, I don't want to be unnice, and they did a good job with what they did, but a lot of things I think disappeared and made it back to Britain and so forth. The whole thing is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And now with LiDAR, they're finding them everywhere. So anybody wants to jump in chat and talk about that, let me know. I see my live stream is actually working this time. I'm surprised. Although I have my mic on, my earphones on, of course, and I can hear every little thing. I had the creak of the bar chair, but I got angry and my mic stayed on because my cats were being stupid. And I don't let them be too stupid. I let them be cats, but stupid goes over the line. When I say don't, I'm God, stop it. And I'm not kidding. And my animals know that. So my kids don't make mommy angry. They kept doing it. Excuse me again. So I had to start the stream 3 times this morning and try not to kill a cat, or 4 or 5. Mm. Finally, I realized after I heard it echo through the house that my mic was on. And I went back to my career. I have a parade ground voice. I'm a loud woman. I was loud anyway. But once I learned cadence, and I had to call cadence just like everybody else, um, and I learned how to be loud. Also, you have to hoorah, ha, ha, whatever. You know, in the military, you have to be heard. And you're on, say, in the middle of a rifle range and you're firing, you have to be loud to be heard because everyone's got earplugs, including the drills and so forth and so on. So you learn to talk louder. Run a lot too. So I still, that's one of the things I still have. And I don't walk like a female. I march, basically. I never lost that either. So when the cats went stupid, I just screamed in my, parade ground voice to get out and stay out. There's no cats in the living room. There's no cats here at the bar. They knew that was it. Mommy's man, get out. I had several people tell me too that they, besides, and I don't have a wrinkle thing. Yes, I do. And I always say that too, that the camera, it puts on 10 pounds. They lie. The camera puts on 40 pounds. I am not usually this big. So, I love that excuses. But yeah, that doesn't add 10 pounds. It adds 40. So, slim up if you want to get a. I keep thinking, why do I do this? I'm doing this because I enjoy this. I like reaching out to people. I like meeting people. I like talking to people. I like all the subjects that there are that are available. And since I can't actually travel, this is a means for me to touch other people of like minds. Yeah, so anybody throw it in the comments. I do have a live chat going on, but it's early, and I think here, and I'm not sure, but most of my Facebook friends live in different time zones. And so usually that's one of the reasons I'll post it on Facebook later so everybody can say, oh, I know her, or put a chat in or whatever they want. So, I mean, I'm still asking everybody to, it's entertainment purposes, guys, that's all it is. Hit the like, hit the bell. It's free subscriptions. You can't get stuff free. You just can't. I have 10 of them. So I could just switch on and know what they streamed live that day. Or I can join the live stream and I'll do that too, like just right here. So I don't know if it's because nobody else feels very good or the fact that I'm a new channel. But I have to bring those numbers up, guys. So hit that like button at least. If you're on here and you've watched me this far, hit the like button. Talk to me. Tell me what you want to know. That way I can study with somebody else. A lot of people don't realize, and I know the Japanese and the Chinese people do, they respect their elders. That's not the case in the United States anymore. They used to. I respected my elders. Or it was, it was a bad thing if you did not put it that way. So, and my husband as well, but we're in our 60s and we're watching our own children, and they're really not that, they're not doing the things that we taught them, I'll put it that way. I mean, they're in their 40s. Our kids are, I have a stepdaughter. My husband has my son, stepson, but we both count them as our children. It doesn't make really a deviation. And as far as brother and sister, you wouldn't know they were not our children because they're that close. But at the same time, they can do things that make me pretty angry. And I try not to because, I mean, they're grown. I did the best I could. Um, and Robert stepped in there and was a great father to my son. I tried to be a good mother to my stepdaughter because I hate to say it, but I mean, but she's passed on. Her mother, her birth mother has, but her birth mother didn't try to help her or do anything or even really see the child. So until she was dying. When she was dying, she moved in with our daughter, her daughter, and that's because she couldn't take care of herself. Her parents took on her sisters. I don't guess gave a shit. Sorry, I just don't know. And I didn't know it at the time. And so my daughter ended up having to take care of her mother as she died from cancer. And then on top of that, she later out dressed her, did her makeup and her hair and everything as well. And that's a lot to put a kid through. She was in her 30s then, but still. And I had no idea. She didn't tell us. She's a very independent young lady, and I was too. So it's not like I'm going to say that's wrong because I was just as independent much more so than she was. And I hated that she had gone through that, especially alone. So we all try to make certain things, certain provisions for our deaths. Like I say, you can't get out of life alive. So you have to do some things to make things ready. And then I have china that's older than my son that I bought while I was in Germany because it's cheaper to buy it there and ship it home than it was to order it here and have it shipped to you. It's like 3 times the cost. So and it's a 12-piece set. So I've moved around the world literally with this set. So it always had to be set ahead of time. Stemware, china, silverware that you have to polish, cotton napkins with gold thread, things like that, to entertain. And we used to entertain a lot. And when we moved here, we downsized, actually gave away 2 housefuls of furniture and so forth, TVs, everything, because we could use them here. So, I mean, we had a really big house all the time. This house would fit one of our other houses. So it's a small home. So I love the way that we redone it, that Robert got rid of that carpet because, like I tell everybody, I shampooed it so much it wasn't a carpet no more. It was just the padding. So all that had to come out, bless his heart, before he could even do the wood floors. We had a pod for 2 months because the furniture had to stay in there. There was no other way to do it. And I love all the improvements in the barn. You can see behind me, he bought new living room furniture. You can also see a shelf there that the cats just love to run on. So we're now looking for a curio cabinet that will be enclosed so that they can't do that. And I'll take that shelf down. I may go ahead and install it in the room upstairs and let them play on it there. I haven't decided yet how much room I'll have, but I'm pretty sure I can do that for them. Uh, they tore up 2 of the climber. I call them the climbers, the ones that go to the ceiling for the cats. They went through 2 of them like they were nothing. And now, of course, we have Gray Ghost because he kept running until I yelled for Robert finally, and I thought he's going to kill me, because this cat had gotten inside, and I always shut the doors, but somehow I did that time. And he ran and ran and ran, and I didn't want to scare him. I was trying to lure him back out with his food and stuff. I didn't want to scare him, but we had enough cats. I mean, even though I was outside. So here I'm trying to do things, and poor Robert was paying for everything because I just started my time retirement checks coming. And it's not cheap. When they found out there was a pandemic, they literally doubled the cost of cat food overnight. The cans of cat food we bought were $15, and that was high. And overnight they went to 32. It's a little bit over. But did the government say you can't do that? Any show of hands? Yeah, that's what I thought. No, I went into I said I'm going to do a roast. I think for dinner, and I looked over and I was looking at the roast, and it was $22.50, for a pound and a half. And I was like, somebody please call 911 because this is theft. It needs to be reported. And then you read on the thing, it's like $15 a pound. You're like, what? Did you see on TV a guy live streamed him pouring out, and he's crying, and he's pouring out gallons and gallons, hundreds of gallons of milk because they're not allowed to sell or but a certain amount of milk, and the rest is to be destroyed. He couldn't even give it to his neighbors or whatever. He couldn't even give it away and say, if you want some milk, come on by. And this man was crying because he was literally throwing gallons away while we're still paying over $3 a gallon at the store. And there's no need for it. The same with the chickens and the eggs and all of that. I heard too that for some reason, I didn't get this one, that they were sending our food to China, who then did something to it. I'm not sure what, or if it really even needed somewhat, and then sent it back. Does that sound right to anybody else? Yeah, I didn't think so. Show of hands. That doesn't add up. It really doesn't. There's so much stuff that doesn't add up. Right now, I fear that the Cascadia fault may go, and that fault is the one that runs not just Carolina, but it's like off the coast of Oregon and stuff like this, and it will take them out. If it's a slide type, so when it slides, the rock and so forth slides down, it creates enormous tsunamis that will come in and hit the southwest and southeast. And it will be bad. It's done it before. You've got San Francisco having tremors. And I don't know if anybody else remembers, but it tore San Francisco slap to death. And then the fires didn't help, and they had no way to deal with that. Mexico is having them. Uh, Oklahoma had 8, and they, in memory, they've not had one. They said flat out, it's just not done there, and I believe them. I don't live there, but I'm sure they know what they're talking about. Mm. Another cough drop, I guess. For some reason, whenever I'm talking to you guys and I see I'm about out of time, I try not to go over an hour. So I have to end up with a nice little piece of cough drop because my mind goes faster than my throat. And so I end up with a sore throat, basically. The other thing, of course, is that the Air Force, and it was really the Navy Air Force, that released the videos of the F-14s catching UFOs in their camera shots where they could kill them, or they could. They did. It's happened many times. And I thought one pilot was funny because he kept going, "Look at that thing! Look at that thing!" And they thought, "Well, we'll go to this point." Uh, he had been told them over the radio to go to a certain coordinate, and these things disappeared. Didn't bother them. They flew the coordinates, and there they was, waiting for them. This is over and over and over. And they supposedly didn't tell the population because the population was going to panic and religion would have a problem and all that. Well, prime ministers of defense in Canada, Britain, and so forth and so on has testified before our Congress that these things are real. They can't. That they just run circles around our technology. Um, Congress didn't seem to have a problem with that. I watched some of that video. They didn't seem to have anything to say. They grilled them like they were liars. These were prime ministers. 20, 30 years for the countries, Canada, Britain, like I said, they had the top people in there to testify. And I thought they treated them terribly. Like they were just wanted attention or they were just up there wasting Congress's time. What have you. I didn't like that at all. And then 9/11 happened right after that. Not to mention that they'd also pointed out that something like $50 trillion of equipment was missing. Again, 9/11 happened after all that. And I don't know if anybody remembers, because they're not showing that one of the planes hit the Pentagon, another plane, that the passengers were going to attack. These guys only had box cutters, that they were going to attack en masse and take control of the plane because they'd already killed the pilots and they were flying the plane. All 4 of them. There should have been a 5th plane, but they didn't let the guy on. I don't remember what it was about, but he didn't get on the plane, so there was only the 4. And now they only talk about the 2, the ones that hit the towers. The towers that they hit were federal. People don't really understand what was in there, but it was, like the FBI. Okay, so all that stuff was in there. A lot of us also can't understand, besides them not talking about the fact that they hit the Pentagon and the others hit the field and died. The names that are read off are only those that were hit and died in the towers. And they also made a major mistake there because they told the people that had gotten out of the first tower to go back in. It was safe now because the fire department had been supposedly putting it out. And I was watching it live. And those 2 buildings came down like, I don't know what they call it. It's a demolition that's controlled. And they just come straight down. They pancake it. A little while later, the second one came down, did the same thing. You also could see people jumping out of the windows. It was horrific. And there was a great loss of life there. But the others are being ignored or not even talked about. I don't know why, but that should stop. I can't even find the words to say why. Why is that happening? Why have they denied or just completely ignored the fact that there were two more planes that went down? It's just a thought. Also, they showed there was live footage. They showed before these in particular buildings went down that metal had melted and was running down. Now they said that was because of the fuel of the plane. No, it's not. They had an engineer meeting and they had gone over and over and over this. And they said there's nothing about gasoline that would make the metal in these towers turn molten and, of course, result in pancaking the buildings. There was a building number 7, called it Building 7, and it was a record building for either the FBI, CIA, or some branch of the military in any event. And it's not shown. I'm not sure why it's not shown. Nobody took anything of that. But it too pancaked. And it wasn't on fire. No plane hit it. No debris hit it. It just pancaked. Some food for that. You might look up the fact that the engineers all came together and pointed out the things that they said could only have been done by military grade, something called thermite, which would melt metal. And that was all that they knew would melt metal, that the gas would not have reached the temperatures to melt metal. And again, the firemen were up there, they were, battling the blaze. And yet these buildings molten metalled and brought down. And it looks like a controlled explosion for all three of those buildings. Number 7, wasn't even near anything that was hit. They weren't near any debris. They weren't on fire. They just panicked. That's it. Just pancake, just like the others. Excuse me. Maybe I do have something more than a cold. I see my hour is almost up too. Well, didn't get into too much today. Just kind of sat up here and talked to you. If there's something in those comments, hit that like button. YouTube likes that. I don't know why, but I would appreciate it. I do appreciate every one of you. And I can't wait to go ahead and start doing the actual podcast interviewing people. If there is anything you're wondering about, interested in, throw it in the comments and I'll get to you, I promise. Everybody have a great day and stay safe. Lady Hippy's out. I had to be out.